Amen. Are you all right? Amen. Amen. Lift your hands. Come on, lift them. Father, we worship you. We thank you for being able to be in a country where, God, even though there's spirits of hostility in the anti-spirit, yet we can praise you.
Thank you, God.
We can still lift you up. Maybe everything ain't perfect, but nothing can stop our praise. And so we honor you this morning. We thank you for this day. We give you the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Be seated. Sit down. Sit down. I ain't got a whole lot of time, so I kind of gotta float through this a little bit this morning. I don't want to keep you beyond your time. I will not apologize though for the Spirit of God. For whatever he wants to do is fine with me. Go to Revelations chapter 2. If you guys can put that on the screen for me. Revelations chapter 2. This morning, I'm going to mess with this a little bit. Revelation chapter 2, verse 8 through 11. I don't know how far we'll get, but we'll do the best we can. Amen. Are you there? Revelations chapter 2, verse 8 through 11. I've asked my brothers to go ahead and put the rest of the verses up for me if you can. Let's get verse 8 in there. Thank you, sir. And to the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these things said the first and the last, who was dead and come to life. Next verse. I know your works, tribulations and poverty, but you are rich. You ought to underscore that. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they're Jews and are not, but of the synagogue or the synagogue of Satan. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. I know they're not on the screen for you this morning, but there are 7 things here that I want to point out. Number 1, tribulation. Number 1, tribulation. It is not what you think. The word tribulation there is not what you think, but we'll talk about it. Number 2, poverty. Poverty. Number 3, blasphemy, or the wickedness of them which say they are Jews, but they're of the synagogue of Satan. But they're of the synagogue of Satan. Number 4, fear none of those things. Fear none of those things. Number 5, the devil, Satan, shall cast some of you into prison. Number 6, you shall have tribulation 10 days. What's that talking about? We're going to find out. And then number 7, be thou faithful unto death. I don't know, I guess when reading these, and I think of what I've experienced in my own Christian walk with God, I don't know about you, but I feel the very weather or atmosphere of climate change of the Antichrist. It's very strong. And it's getting stronger. the spirit of apathy and no concern about the things of God is blowing in on Christian folk. And it's blowing so quick that people don't realize the weather has changed. You ever look outside and it looks one way, and then all of a sudden it's changed in an instant? If you ever been to Houston, Texas, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you look outside, it's all sunny. Next thing it's just pouring rain. You know, then it clears up, and then another one blows in. I'm like, wow, man, I don't know if I ever want to live out here. But let me deal with number one, tribulation. It's mentioned first. The word work is not in the best manuscript in this particular writing. It is not the great tribulation. It means something like trouble or simply trouble. Say trouble for me. Trouble. It is a different type of trouble that is pronounced. And as we go through this church, Smyrna, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Since the awful persecution of the church by the Roman Empire is not called the Great Tribulation, surely our small sufferings are not that great tribulation. But the church in Smyrna endured much tribulation, and they suffered for the Lord Jesus Christ. The next one I'm going to go to is poverty. Poverty, of course, denotes the lack of material possessions. The lack of material possessions. It's hard to see most churches here in America without some type of material possessions. But there are churches that do not have a lot. Especially when you look on the counting books at the end of the year. It's not much to show for. The early church was made up largely of a poor class of people. When the wealthy believed in Christ, their property was seized and confiscated because of their faith. I don't know. I think sometimes when you look at the largestness of churches or denominations or whatever, you cannot distinctly think that there's that many poor people in that church. But this is a church that's most noted that they didn't have a lot of material things. They were very poor. But he says, but thou art rich, denotes the spiritual wealth of the church. The spiritual wealth. I like that. I don't know if you cling to verses, but I do. I used to have a very bad stomach ache, and sometimes I still fight it. And there's a verse of scripture that I pulled out of John, the 3rd chapter of the 3rd book of John, where he makes the statement, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou may prosper, be in health, even as thy soul prospers. I needed that verse. And the Lord told me to quote that verse every time when I eat. And I got to be honest with you, it works. And it's good that we have verses in the Bible that we can partner in our own spirit about. Amen. They were blessed with spiritual blessings. That's, of course, found over in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places by Christ Jesus. I don't know about you. It is very hard in a society where everything is materialistic and everything is about monetary gain to understand that spiritual wealth is far outdoes that, because you're normally looked at by what you have. Y'all ain't saying nothing in this room. And I understand why, because we have been selected in a country where wealth means a lot to people. People campaign for the basis of wealth, and they get votes because people are greedy as the people they're voting for. Notice the contrast of the rich church of Laodicea. To that church, he says, think that you're rich, but you are really poor and don't know it. You know, it's one thing to know you've got a little something, and then it's another thing to know you really don't have that much. You see, because if I taught you right and tried to get you to see that the spiritual always outweighs the material. But sometimes, it's like, again, it's hard when you've been conditioned to think if you don't have something, you're not really doing that much. But not with God, especially if you're doing it as unto him. Now, when you're doing it as unto yourself, it really doesn't mean anything. But when you're doing it as unto him, if you're going through a little something right now and you're doing it as unto the Lord, I can guarantee you this, you're not by yourself, and he's going to bring you out. I heard that there are some churches across the land, pastors like they had in their congregation slaves, ex-slaves, runaway slaves, free slaves, poor people, those who had lost whatever money they had become Christians. Let me go to the next one. Blasphemy. This is wickedness of them which say they are Jews, but are of the synagogue of Satan. This implication is the Jews in Smyrna, who had come to Christ were Jews inwardly as well as outwardly. But in Romans chapter 9, verse 6, Paul says, not all Israel is Israel. You know, it's interesting when people claim a culture, but they don't really have too much knowledge about what that culture is. I've heard people try to give me some teaching. And don't take this wrong that they're the black Jews, and I believe there definitely are black Jews. But there's some people, you're not a black Jew. I don't mean you no harm. Your pedigree already says you're off. If you go ahead and do a DNA test, it'll prove it. You're not, well. But see, some people want to claim something that they never had to go through. Most of us, if we had to go through the Redrick lifestyle of the Jewish people, we would want it. It is very Redrick. But a Jew was noticed by his religion. It was more pronounced than his culture. But unfortunately, we have people that think the culture is more pronounced than the religion. No, it's not. See, they were actually not a people until God made them a people. Can I be honest with you? It's the same about you. You're nobody without him. Number 4, fear none of those things. In the encouragement of the Lord, his own during persecution. One thing I love about God, you might not think he's close to you when you're going through some of the most crazy events, but that's when he's the closest. And I got to be honest with you, because we go through different things, it's hard to know he's that close, that he cares that much. But I pray as I talk about Smyrna that you find out God is a lot closer than you know. When you're going through trouble that you didn't bring up. The disciples did not bring up the storm that came on the Tiberias Sea. They didn't bring up that storm. That storm came out of nowhere. And guess who was walking on the storm? And guess who was walking too? His guys who were in the storm. What was that for, Pastor? To let us know, even though it's stormy, I'm going to show up. I'm a present help in a time of trouble. He's a God that will show up in crazy stuff. I like something I heard this morning, and I'll give this to you for free. But I like this. I thought this was so good. God is so smart that he does not just give you miracles because you want them. He knows the need for it. And sometimes in a society that's bent on spirituality, God says, well, I'm going to give you some spiritual stuff. Because that's what you've been on. God doesn't just show up and start showing out. He's not like that. No, I know that don't feel good to some. Well, God just showed. No, he doesn't. You never know what God. Read this book. He does tell you what he's going to do. When he's going to do it. How he's going to do it. Now, he might not tell you the time, though. Amen. That's the best part about it. I'm glad that God doesn't work according to my time. Because seemingly me, I'm always nervous about something. And God's nervous about nothing. I ain't seen God get nervous about the White House yet. But I've heard a lot of nervous people talking about it. Like God ain't in control. Are you crazy? The earth is still the Lord's. Amen. The White House don't run God. You gotta have a color thing. No, President Trump he cannot go to his rally with God and make it work. Don't work like that. He is theocracy, and he don't need nobody to tell him when to do and how to do. He's sovereign. He'll do it when he wants to and how he needs to do it. You can't beg him to do it. He's going to do it because he's confined right within his word. He seated his word even above his name. You better get in it. Number 5, the devil, Satan, shall cast some of you in prison. Behind all the trouble they had been facing and dealing with was none other than Satan. Can I tell you something? Behind all your trouble is a dastardly devil. It ain't the folk you think. It ain't even the people you work with. It's that dastardly devil that comes to hinder all the time. And he likes you blame everybody else but him. He loves it. It's that person I work with. No, it ain't. It's the devil behind it. You know what really, I was looking at this and I started thinking, Matthew chapter 16, verse 23. This is Peter, you guys can turn it if you want to. You can put that up for me. Matthew 16, 23. I'm going to give it a little moment so they can put that up for you. But this particular incident that happens, I think is a very unique moment in one of his disciples' lives. Because he celebrates him, and then all of a sudden, the disciple makes a big, big mistake. He goes back into his flesh. Yeah. And can I tell you something? Some of us do the same thing. We have a high service, and before service is over, you done jump right back to your flesh. You act it up again. You wonder why God won't say nothing to you. Well, you live too much in the flesh for him to talk to. God's a spirit. And so those that worship him have to worship him how? He is not going to change the formula. Just because you like to act up in your flesh. I got to show God how I feel about it. Well, that's going to be your problem. How you feel about it. Are you there? Watch this. But Jesus turned. Let me read from there. But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me. Satan, you are an offense to me. For you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men." Now, when you read that, I know for me, I'm like, that's kind of cold. You know? Because you got to read the rest of the part, go back up to the other parts and read it. I don't have time to expound it. But you go back and read the other part. Peter is being magnified because Jesus said, well, who do men say I am? He said, well, you're the Son of God. He says to Peter, flesh and blood hasn't revealed this to you. This has come from our Father. And Peter has to be like, yeah. You got that right, huh? Peter did that one. Then Jesus starts to talk about him getting ready to go through sufferings. Him about to face this whole cross business. And Peter cannot handle it. He grabs Jesus and he pulls him to the side. And he says, oh no, this ain't going to happen to you. Not as long as I'm around. Now here's the deep part of Jesus. Jesus picked up immediately, this is the devil talking. Yeah. Can I tell you what the devil constantly does in your life? He always tries to get you away from the purpose in which you were called. Yeah. Well, you're not listening. Maybe I'll sit over here. He always comes messing with the thing that God has purposed you to do. Yeah. He'll bring every distraction to get you away from that, which is where you're anointed. Watch this. So Peter turns and says, he turns to Peter and says, get behind me. But then he pronounces the person behind the other voice. Satan. are a stumbling block to me. You ever run into folks, they don't mean any harm, but they seem to be blocking you from what God wants you to do. I don't take this wrong. There are assignments from God and there are assignments from the devil. Oh. You hear what I'm saying? Especially if you're like me. You start getting in the Word, you start getting prayer, and all of a sudden the phone starts to ring nervously. And I always have to say, why are you ringing? You weren't ringing before. Why are you ringing now? Why? You ever notice temptation shows up when you're getting your focus on about God? I mean, you're really getting your focus on about God. Those of you that study and teach the Word here, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like the devil pops up. Pastor Jerry, get ready for we're going to pop up on me. Because what? You're getting ready to get that place, this place ready for the Word of God. Make straight the way of the Lord. Got to get straight. Because the Word is going to come. And I'm just the vessel. I'm just the messenger voice this morning. I'm just a deposit of dropping the Word. It is what you do with the seed that counts. Now the devil has to come immediately to try to snatch the seed. Because if the seed ever gets to its right place, it'll start growing. Y'all agree? So he has to interfere with everything. He has some folk walking like zombies. Bathroom visit. You've never been in the same bathroom every Sunday. It's the same thing it was last Sunday. Somebody's calling on the cell phone. Gotta go see. They always call. When do you finally get to the place that you start saying, I know your devices. I know this is you. I done seen this before. This ain't nothing new. The only way he can disturb you, you have to activate him. He can't do nothing if you draw nigh to God, ignore him. Huh? If there's no logs on the fire, what happens? If there's no logs on the fire, what happens? If somebody ain't arguing with you, who you arguing with? You just look like you arguing with yourself, because I ain't arguing with you. Who are they talking to? Because the person ain't talking back. That's sometimes how you have to do the devil. You know how Jesus did the devil? He told him, he said, here comes the devil, he said, I know you're the Son of God, and you come to talk, you said, shut up. First of all, no demon announces me. Okay. You don't have that, you don't, I don't need no demons announcing who I am. The Father has already announced me. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So a demon is a poor example of somebody trying to announce you. I'm the Son of God. Remember the woman that came after Paul? We know you men of God. You know, come to something and shut up. You don't get to say that about us. You got to understand what I'm saying. Sometimes it's not good that you be appreciated and God is not exalted. So you got to be very careful, because people will lift you up and drop you real quick. I'm trying not to preach, y'all. This is good stuff. All right. Number 6. You shall have tribulation 10 days. There were 10 intense periods of persecution by the Roman Empire. Now, I won't go through all of these this morning, but how many of y'all remember Nero? Nero made sport of the Christians. In fact, he used them as torches to light up the way to his house. He was the one that beheaded Paul. Nero. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but Dionysius is a part of that. And was it 95, 96? He's the one that exiled John to the Isle of Patmos. Okay? If I go through all of these, Macmillan, all these guys, you go through these people, these jokers were the pressure on the church. And it was 10 of these emperors. Now, if there's 10 emperors to create all this havoc, what do you think is going on around us? Especially when there's vision, especially when there's desire to do the things of God. One time I came in here, my God, I came in here for rehearsal with the praise team. And I was trying to hold it together. And there was a homeless person, and my mind went back to Skid Row because I was down there for 2.5 years. And I couldn't handle rehearsal. I said, y'all have to forgive me. This is hard for me. Now it's at my door. You know, you can't get past that design God has put in you, Timothy, because they laid hands on you. You see, you were called even in the womb. That God had his hand on you, boy. Yep. And you think you can tear away from it by doing other things, and other things can distract you. My root grabbed me immediately. I said, what does that mean, God? You know the resources we got here. What are we supposed to do? I went home talking to God. What do you want from me? Yeah, you're going to be surprised how he answers. Oh, he got a plan beyond what your plan is.
Amen. Amen.
But he has to check your heart.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, God can't give us certain things because our heart move away from that. Oh, yeah. You know, you used to love seeing people say, now you barely clap. You never see Jesus? Okay, good for you. Remember we talked about Ephesus and how the love was cold. It got real cold. They lost their zeal. See, you can lose your zeal even coming to church. You ain't got no excitement about worshiping God. It becomes boring to lift your hand. It becomes boring to hear the same old song because you ain't never caught on to the first song. Why God keep you there? He's trying to train you to do something. I need more. More what? You ever see a child, they already eating, they want something else to eat? You just ate. That's right. What's wrong with you? You're not getting up here and putting nothing else up. I already cooked for you. I already gave you Jesus. I already gave you the Holy Ghost. Well, I'm going to leave that alone because it gets a little deep. Number 7, be thou faithful, this is tough, unto death. Be thou faithful unto death. And they were martyred for him. He promised them a crown of life. Remember that he is addressing the believers who lived in Smyrna, the crown city. Smyrna was called the crown city. In fact, if you see it today, it's another name, of course, on the place, but it's beautiful. People love Smyrna. It is interesting that in them he is saying that he will give you a crown. He'll give you crowns. Not a crown of flowers or anything that's perishable, but a crowns that will be eternal. I don't know if you understand what this is about. Because here's the damage we do with thinking we're going to heaven. It's not going to happen for those that don't overcome. It's not that you won't get to heaven. You just ain't going to get there with that group. No. It is the reward to those who overcame the devil, who didn't give in to his whims, who fought. Sometimes in this Christian walk, you got to put up your dukes. Not going out like we went out last week saying, oh, you had me all last week. I cried. I begged you to leave me alone. I hoped you'd leave me alone. I called 10 other people who wasn't home and nobody helped me. But this time, devil, we fight.
That's right.
No, this time I'm not going away with tears in my eyes and rolling around on the floor and hoping so. It reminds me of my wife when a little mouse had gotten a house, and I was at a Bible study. I couldn't get home fast enough to help her. And she said, Michael, you got to come home now. I said, babe, I'm way out here in Louisville. I'm going to get to you. I said, what's the problem? The little mouse keeps coming out. Seems like he always comes out when you ain't around. Well, I'll tell you what she did. She had enough of the little mouse. So she got the broom and she smacked him until he wasn't going to run no more. Sometimes in your Christian experience, you got to get enough of being defeated on the same stupid thing. You have taken advantage of me once too many times. And this day, I'm going to whoop you. You're going to be the one running out of here. I'd like to give you a perspective, a viewpoint of a church, or the church is living in a pagan world, in a hostile environment. That's exactly what the opening chapter of the book of Revelation is all about. We have evidences of the church is being under persecution, severe persecution. In Revelation chapter 1, verse 9, John speaks of himself. He said, John, your brother, fellow partner, or partaker in the tribulation and kingdom of perseverance, which are in Jesus, who on the island called Patmos because of the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. I don't know about you, but this is what my heart's desire is. It ain't leave any appetite about Michael or what did I do. I want it to be said that I would not relent when it came to the scriptures. I would not back up on the testimony of Jesus Christ. John was the last apostle, the time of the final decade of the first century. John had been faithful as an apostle and a preacher as evangelical. That man was an evangelist. He didn't care. And the Lord used him to give his leadership to the churches in Asia Minor, modern Turkey. But as Revelation opens up, John was exiled. He had been sent basically to a prison on the island, the penal court, where they had him in a colony, living on a rock, living in the Mediterranean, where he was crushed on rocks at the age of 90. Where there was no hope to escape. And John gave us why he was there. Number one, the word of God. And number two, the testimony of Jesus Christ. You know, I had to ask the question, what will be your testimony? What's the purpose of why you are a Christian? Are you a Christian so people can see how many things you got because you prayed for it and he gave it to you? But the question is who have you laid into to share the good news of Christ? You know, I didn't know my little wife was going over to an area at her job. I didn't know this. You know, very naive back then. That Darrell was actually, for her job, working in a place that was people that were full of heroin and stuff like that. They were really doped up. And we had two that were attending our church. And I had decided that I wanted to go over there and preach the gospel and share the word. And you got to watch me. I'm not like most folk. I just want to be where God wants me to be. Why? Because I believe the character of a Christian is not found in buildings.
Okay.
It's found out in the real world.
That's right. That's right.
It's almost like Pastor Jerry told me one time he had to go for training, and he went to dinner one night, and he saw a couple guys. They were talking, and they were, on the feminine side. But he felt the Holy Ghost pull on his heart to go talk with them and to share the gospel. See, it's only in times like that that you begin to find out the significance of God's life in you. I don't know about you. I got a little bit bored with the church. I'll admit this to you. I got bored with the church. And I didn't complain to nobody but God, though. I didn't talk to anybody. I just talked to him. I said, Lord, why are we touching those that are not touchable? He said, well, why are you worried about them? Why don't I just use you to do it? And when he took me to the spot that he wanted me at, man, did I cry. I cried the whole month looking at people that were thrown away by society, that nobody cared about. And I said, Lord, what message do I have to bring? He said, the love message. How I love man. He said, but preach it from your heart. Don't waste my time out here, Michael. You want them to come where they are. Here they are. And in most churches, they have an opportunity for folks to preach. And that was okay. And he asked me, he said, Mike, do you want to go ahead and preach? I said, no. I'm on Skid Row. And, man, I'd like no opportunity to preach the gospel. And I actually know who the demon is on Skid Row. In the church, I'm a little confused. Because sometimes you don't know you're sitting closer to a demon than you are a saint. How do you detect? How do you know? Because they dress up so good and they smile so great and they have all the right hallelujah, but behind them is a demon. How do you know? They never talk about the scriptures ever. But they're always located in gossip and stuff of that nature. That's demonic. And it's from the pit. And the devil waits to get many of us that love God to pull us out of our assignment. We've got 22 minutes to try to. I don't want to address too much, but he was a faithful. He proclaimed the word of God and the gospel of Jesus Christ. This means John was the product of persecution. Let me tell you something. If you do the real gospel, you're going to become the product of persecution. I'm not talking about that cute gospel stuff that makes everybody feel good. The true gospel will upset you.
Come on.
You want to know Jesus? Jesus pissed most folk off. I use the vernacular that y'all know. So you want to hang out with Jesus? I was wondering why the disciples were so quiet, some of them, because Jesus pissed you off. He said, hey, don't get offended in me. He's a revolutionary. He was the type of person that it didn't care who you were, what you were. If you cross God, he's going to say something. The zeal of him. Come out. Bam. The disciples would say, man, we're in trouble. Jesus said something. And the Pharisees looking at us and the guards and everybody looking at all of us. Man, get Jesus out of ducking.
Yeah.
This is what he did. Truth will sometimes hurt your feelings.
Okay.
Can I tell you something? If your feelings are too thin, you might want to think about this again. sometimes when I'm sitting down and God's talking to me down there, and I need to say something about yourself. Excuse me? I need to say something about yourself right now. I know you're reading that right there. Close it up for a minute. Why you got an attitude? Excuse me?
Yeah. Check it.
Like an
Check
attitude.
it. Check it.
Oh, you didn't talk too smooth with someone. We gotta go there. Well, you want to go here? But see, some of y'all afraid to talk to him on the real level. You want to just say good things about you. You know, you always are with it. Big old wet. But if he could just tell you the reason why the anointing don't flow with you. Your attitude hangs out in the wind all the time. You touchy feelings and walk soft around you. Jesus didn't walk soft around nobody. You vipers! Snakes! Y'all need to get him out of here. You know, set the party. He healed it on the Sabbath. What you healing for? What's it better for me to do?
Take up his bed and walk.
If the hospital's in me, and I got to kill, why can't I kill? Does a day control the kill? I thought God was the Lord over the Sabbath. What you talking about? Is it easy for you to go and get your little donkey out the hole on the Sabbath or leave him down there and you need him? Jesus talking about practical. Get the doggone donkey out the door and move the thing like you need to move it, man. Take up your bed. It's the Sabbath. I don't care about that. Take up your bed. Who told you to do that? Jesus. You know what he was messing with? Everything they tried to put in rules. See, if it don't change the life of people, what's the rule for? Huh? I want him to heal on Sunday. What if he wants to heal on Monday? You're going to wait all the way to bring him up there to pass. Why? He said the believers will do it. He didn't say, only the pastors now, only the pastors. And then Jesus was cold-blooded. Did you check him out? When he healed the man that was blind, I think it's HIV, he healed the man that was blind. He said, go show yourself to the priest, keeping in line with the law. Do you know why he's doing that? He's messing with it. The gospel has a way of messing with everybody that don't like God's way. Everybody. I told you the reason why I like Martin Luther King. You know what Martin said? I don't want to be no president. I'm the Mark Countries of the country. When they do something wrong, I'm going to come up. I said, you know what? That's why they want to shut you up. People want to be able to do wrong without being convicted. I don't want to feel no pain for it. But watch this. Soon as you begin to put it out, expect some trouble. Y'all putting me online. Do you know how dangerous that is for a guy like me? Because I don't really care. No, I'm 62, baby, and I ain't looking back. They told me when I reached 50, I wouldn't care about things. Baby, I understand that now. I've lived a little bit. If I got to go, adios. You know what I mean by that? To have to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord. I ain't tripping. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. I need to do this. Y'all know how crazy I can get sometimes. So let me just do this now. I hear the Lord telling me to do this as I close your Bible. The benefit of suffering. The benefit. What's the benefit, Pastor? Well, in the letter to the Philippians, Paul shared how suffering results in the advancement of the gospel. Okay, now let's be clear here. Not all suffering advances the gospel.
Okay.
Why? Because most suffering is because people did it to themselves. But this particular suffering here advances the gospel. He wrote to exhort the church to solve the internal problems so that they could bond together as one man for the advance of the gospel. Churches today need to work together for the advance of the gospel, even in the midst of suffering hardship. He says, I want you to know, brethren, that what's happened to me has really served to advance the gospel. In Philippians, he was in prison. So that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. Everybody in jail calls they Christians. They're in jail because they did wrong. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Paul says, because I've gone to prison, guess what? I've given other people the boldness to step out and start preaching the gospel. Because I ain't stopped calling them in here. Some of y'all, you can't preach 2 minutes to somebody without starting to go back worldly. Paul didn't do that kind of stuff. He preached so they had to throw him out of places. Get him out of here. In fact, they told him in one place, don't let Paul come in here. He's going to upset everything. He's going to spoil our party. We're going to have a party. We're going to do it like we want. If Paul comes there, he's going to say, you got idols in that back seat. You better get rid of them. God sees it. Some indeed preach Christ, he said, from the envy and competition, but others from the goodwill. Some people only preaching trying to outprove each other and preach one another. Man, listen, if that's what you about, I'm not in your ring. Baby, listen, I'm not trying to outstyle you, I'm not trying to outdress you. I don't bit more care. Here's what I care about. Christ be crucified, Christ be risen, and Christ coming again. I don't care about all that other stuff. Yeah, I ain't looking for your accolades. Long, there's a crown laid up for me. You got to get your eyes on the right prize. I don't need your trophy.
Okay.
Long as there's one laid up for me.
Okay.
So that when I get before him, I can throw that crown at his feet. I feel like a Baptist preacher this morning. Knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel, Paul said. The former proclaimed Christ out of the selfish ambition, some of them not sincerely, but thinking to affect me in my imprisonment. Sometimes the best comes out of you when you're going through hell.
Right now.
And I know ain't nobody here saying, Lord, put me in hell. Let me go through. But sometimes going through don't make you see. Without going through, sometimes you don't see God. In the day that Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. I finally got a glimpse of who God is. Sometimes people block you from God. Sometimes saints stand in the way of sinners. They cause them not to come to God because they're too busy filling the altars with their same old junk. And all you got to do is call on God. Don't get me wrong. All you got to do is say, Lord, here am I. I give it to you, Lord. Show me what to do. He'll do it. But there are people that need you to live right. They need you to... I know this is a sick world. I'm not here to tell you don't know what gender is a gender now. Nobody knows how to tell you the right now. And people are afraid to tell you the truth. Parents are afraid to tell the truth. That boy's crazy. Well, you hear on TV a man goes in and shoots his grandmother because he won't go ahead and take in her girlfriend. Huh? This is the world you live in. And because of the incident, then an innocent person has to get killed. Oh, don't you get it? And God, watch this, left the church to be the government in the earth. And then half of us stay at home because we got to be in a tech. I want to leave that alone. I need to be careful. Because see, we have to walk light when we preach. We can't tell people you enjoying too much. You got to stop a little bit. Get off your enjoyment bubble for a minute. And get into the streets with people and begin to labor with them. Don't be happy that you are sitting there eating a large steak and you can enjoy it while somebody is digging in a trash can trying to find something to eat. What gospel are we preaching? Get rich and live large. So you're rich and so you're fat. He said you don't have nothing. You ain't got nothing. Because now you can drive by people and you don't feel nothing. But when your heart breaks, your heart breaks because it's humanity is what God created. Somebody's son, somebody's daddy. And we come for an hour or two to vacillate in the goodness of ourselves, to feel good. Don't say nothing wrong with me. And if the Holy Ghost show up, he'll say, definitely something wrong with you. Because he's that way. He doesn't say it to destroy you. He says it to get you out of this placency and compromise. And being okay with things the way they go. How can a whole year pass and nobody's touched with the gospel? Signs are all up and down the street. Churches are hanging over the banisters of so many, but there's still a bunch of hungry people. What gospel are we preaching? I'm like a boy to sit on your corner and you pat me on the head and think I'm good with it. No, because I'll get quiet with God and he'll tell me the truth. Well, he'll let me in on it. I know when people run from me, as Pastor Mike called it. Why is he called it? I'm a shepherd. Shepherd tends to a sheep. That's his job. When I quit tending to the sheep, I need to stop being a shepherd. Shepherds always go after the lost sheep. Where you at? Why are you not around? I have to speak in your soul. Why? Because you get the life of God. Some of you know what I'm talking about. As soon as the life of God starts to move in your spirit, it stirs up your spiritual cells. They start to come on again. And you start getting hungry to do the will of God again. And you can see, take me back again when I first received you. I remember me crying and laying before you. I wanted you so bad to be in my life. I didn't want nothing else but you. Well, you ain't listening to me. I didn't care how fine she was. It didn't mean nothing to this boy when I found God. He turned that thing off and turned him on. And It was nothing I was afraid of or anybody. I wasn't afraid of nothing. I didn't care if somebody shot and I was gone. Man, I'd have been preaching the gospel. When did it start for you? 13 years old. The light bulb came on. I needed Jesus so bad. I needed him in my life. I was so glad he saved me. It was like he drugged me to the cross and let me see Jesus. I saw blood running from his body. And it was for Michael Arnwine to come to Jesus, man. I don't know who you are this morning. You gotta quit playing church with God.
Yeah, that's right.
I ain't even tucked you in the door this morning yet. When we get in there, I'm gonna show you a tremendous church who was being massacred. When Caesar had made a statement that you're gonna call me Lord, you're gonna burn incense for me. You understand that? When you do, and I know you did it, I'll give you a certificate. For the Christians that were in Smyrna, listen to this. They knew they couldn't do that. Ain't no way I'm gonna do that. You live in America. It's kind of wonderful. And I hear some of the people that going through a little something you ain't been through. You ain't been through some things. You ain't laid up in a bed with cancer eating you from one end to the next. Can't hold no meal down. The body rejects everything. You're just sick. You're just sick. I remember being in the hospital and a friend, his father was dying of cancer, and the smell was just so horrific. And every time he would scream in pain, and I'd see that agony, I said, I gotta go out of here, man. Then I began to thank the Lord and say, Lord, thank you, I didn't get to see Daddy suffer like this. Jesus stayed on that cross a long time. The movies don't give you the accuracy of how long he hung there. He hung there a long time. Body coagulating and going through all kind of horrific pains, and he was staying there for you. He was staying there for me. The body couldn't die till he told it to. The Bible says he must be lifted up. Everybody had to see it. Revelation said they'll see him again with the pierce in his hands, and they'll begin to weep. I can't explain why I'm made like I am, but I gotta tell a story. This Jesus died for me. Stayed there a long time. My predecessors that went before me, like Paul, in prison writing books, not in his study in his room. He's in prison, writing under the inspiration of the Holy Ghost to help me understand what I would face. I'm like you, I watched some eulogies past week. Watched a man that the country almost got embarrassed by a president. But that man made sure you're not going to sell America out like that. I watched Aretha go. I watched the show. It was a show.
Yes, it was.
Part of it it was embarrassing because the church has become a show. There's no more sanctity about this. Who can come up and sing whatever you want? Because money. I said, Lord, I know why you got me teaching these 7 churches. It's a serious time. We've got to understand who we are. Which church are you? Are you the suffering church? Which church are you? Remember, I told you out of the 7, only 2 didn't get reprimanded. Smyrna, Philadelphia. Laodicea, when we get there, you talk about wicked. My God. The world just moved into the church. And everything was run out of the world system. Laodicea has the word laity to it, which actually has to deal with laity working people in the church. And unfortunately, sometimes even in this house, I've been very scared with things with God. Lord, am I doing it right? Some of you heard me jump on some folk in the service. Listen, you don't know me. For this, I will put my life on the line. This is not a friendship. I didn't do this because of a friend. One guy got in the ministry, thought I did this because we were friends. I said, no, man, I didn't do this because of you. I said, I understand. That's not what I did. I didn't want to do it. That's when you know you're called to do it. And then God does some unusual things. A lot of times it's for me and then it's for people around me. To let them know that his hand's on it. When he removes his hand, that's the end of it. I will know my season's stopped. And I will back off. He'll get it. Then somebody that takes the helm must be as strongly anointed as I am. You do not pass the baton to somebody with a less anointing. You don't do that. Joshua stayed around Moses. You watched him go up and talk with God and come down again. And God said, this boy is something else. He waits on this man. There have been many men tried to be my armor bearer. I don't need no armor bearer. I just need somebody committed to God to serve him. Don't serve me, serve God.
That's right.
That's when you make your mistake. Then you think you're becoming my flunky. I don't need no flunky.
That's right.
Serve God. Do it out of your heart. If you do it because you love God, God's going to bless you.
Yes, he will.
I have not seen nobody in this church that's done it right by God and I get blessed.
That's right.
I'm sorry, it's a fact.
That's right.
But that's not acquainted to me. It's acquainted to God and how much he loves us. Okay, Gary, you know we sitting on a bombshell, but God is in the midst.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he is.
In church, when I come and bring you this, I want you to understand, it ain't nothing I did.
Nope.
Because I'm as human as you. And sometimes I ask God, what are you doing? What is this for? I didn't ask for this. Y'all don't know that. Everybody's going, I'm at the building. I didn't ask for this. That's a headache. Then I get home and said, you were shouting at me. I said, yeah. Why are you screaming at me about the buildings? I said, because I didn't ask about it. I didn't ask you for this. He said, I know that. But it's bigger than you. Y'all done got it yet. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than what you even thinking God wants to do. Jerry said to Rebecca going off the day, when you gonna do your recording? See, we take that's one song can change the world. got to be 100 something. Once. But it's got to come from your heart. I've heard singers come out, me and my wife, we listen to songs like, ain't no anointing on it. Just ain't no anointing on it. There's a bunch of beating in the house. Ain't nothing on it. I came from anointed people. And when I hear something ain't anointed, then turn that off. I don't want to hear that. You're like, but it got a good group. Good group don't help me. I need something anointed, man. One of the ladies sings one word over and over again. It's a smash hit. Why? Because it's anointed. And sometimes God has to blow us away with something simple. Come on, he takes a stone and knocks a giant out. We would have said, where's the boulder? Get the boulder and roll it down and hit that joker. I just need a little rock. What are you going to do with that? Hit it right and square in the middle of his forehead. That's it. So, God can end your problem like that. But why is it lasting? Because you ain't changed.
Come on.
You still got that natural disposition. Been hanging there a long time, ain't it? Wonder why I got home and fixed my stuff. Why won't he? There's a whole lot of folks that were sick at the pool. Did y'all know that? Yeah. And the man he went to was complaining. Man, I ain't got nobody to put me in the pool. Jesus said, you won't get well? Man, if somebody will help me get in the pool. The hospital was right there. Ain't that funny? Your answer's staring you right in the face. You're looking every place else for it. You're looking at all them old people. They're going to help me. They're going to help me. This one's going to do it. That one's going to do it. If I tell you how many people came to us about the building, this person, that person, that person. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to talk to them. Talk to Gary. I don't talk to him. I just talk to you. Huh? I'm just going to talk to you. When you going to move? When you going to put your other hand? You know I can do it like that. I'm going to do it again. You know I can do it like that. Mike, you know I can do it like that. Would you please just do it like that? Nah, you need some changes though. I can't do it. From faith, we go from faith to faith. See, what you dealt with before, you grew to that faith and you're good. Now you're going to another level. It requires a different faith. Right? And he had to help me get that. You ain't got that part yet. See, I've been behind good men. I've watched them. Was amazed at watching them. Man, how did you do that, boy? That's something else right there. Till he put you in the front of it. And I'm saying, I need them. No, you need me.
Yes.
What's staring you right down in front of you that says to you, why I can't move this problem? Why this won't move for me? Why won't this change? Here's the big one. When are you going to change? What's it going to take for you to finally get grips with that he can do it like that? At the snap, he can do it. And here's the thing that's going to blow you away. He wants to. One thing I'm sure about, he wants to. It's funny, the people that have been around me for years, they're becoming just like me. When God tells them to wait, they're doing the same thing I do. Man, Pastor, I'm doing what you do. What's that? Wait. I said, oh, you done come up with me now, huh? Yeah. Ain't no sense in fussing with God, because they ain't going to move till he's ready to move. I said, man, that sounds real cool that you're able to say that. Wait on the Lord! Wait! Don't get ahead of him. Sometimes the trouble shows up because you outmaneuvered God again. have new troubles. We got enough trouble without creating new ones.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Some of y'all know what I'm talking about? Am I just preaching to myself right there? Sometimes I realize I caused the problem. Stan, come on, I'm done. I'm not going to go any further. It's the holiday and I want to go home and go to bed. I do. I tossed and turned last night. I don't know what was going to happen in the service today. But I felt some of you. Some of you are at crossroads with God. You haven't learned to trust Him fully, but you will. You will. And I'm assured of that. You will. I had to learn. I'm 62 now, so it took some days of really dealing with God in some areas of my heart. I wrestled with one pretty strong. And I knew that it was an assignment of the devil. I said, this is an assignment of the devil. Because he wants to stop the blessing. There's something he wants to do. If he's doing it for this church, it's something he wants to do for you. Listen at me. I don't know who you are. But something you've been asking God for. Lord, I really want to see that come to pass. Now, one of my young men in here, he's been believing God for a job, and we've been praying and talking and praying and talking. And the Lord blessed him. And I warned him. I said, I'm going to warn you that thing that you want comes with responsibility. And then you're going to walk God. Because listen, He's going to bless you. I promise you that. He's faithful to that. He always keeps His word. But you know what we do? Then we get amnesia. But you act like you don't know where this came from. This came from Him. He said the same thing to the Israelites. Why y'all acting like y'all don't get this? I brought you out. Why y'all talking about we going back to you? Going back where? Ain't no place to go back. I'll close the Red Sea. It's time for you to get victories. It's time for you not to let temptation run you away from what God has for you. And I feel you on this one. You've hung on, been strong. You get weaker sometimes, waiting on the thing to come to pass. When we first started out asking God, we got rich praise and we're just so vibrant. But as time goes on, it gets a little weaker. Why are we praising so much? Why are we doing that? Why, Pastor Mike, have to have a confidence every time? Because I'm believing. And praise somehow lets me in an arena if nothing else does. I want you to do me a quick favor. Lift your hands to God. And of course, you don't have to. You can be stubborn. But I'm just asking you to lift him to him. This God can do it in a snap. He can change the world in a snap. If he does not, will you still praise him? Will you still tell him, you're amazing? And I worship you, and it ain't even come to pass yet. But your credit's good with me, God. Because I got history on you. You will bring it to pass. I'm getting older, Pastor Mike, but you're not past the age that you can still enjoy it. I was reading the scriptures and I said, Lord, my eyes are getting a little dim. I can't hardly see them. He said, they'll clear up in a few minutes. You'll be able to see everything you need to. Not done with you. Quit checking out. You ain't leaving
Amen. Thank you, God.
yet. Why? Because you haven't had that thing fulfilled yet.
Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank
And
you,
it
God.
will be fulfilled.